It's Friday. I get to quilt at work again today, but I'm not allowed to like pretend it. I have to pretend I'm actually working. We're gonna continue onward with our quilting panel today. What we've been quilting all week. Today is day 3 of quilting, and we had a prep day on Tuesday. We are working through this panel with you guys. So if you picked up this panel, awesome. You can quilt along at home, either just the panel or the full skill builder kit, which has batting and backing with it. And then once you're quilted through this panel, there's another smaller panel with similar designs, and it's $9.99, and yeah, just a little smaller. So let's go find Barb and see if she's ready. And then we're gonna play on the big boy today. So this machine is essentially the 24-inch version of the Bernina sit-down that I was working on yesterday. But the big difference here is that our fabric is gonna stay stationary and our machine is gonna move.
Well, it's the difference between moving the pen or moving the paper. And
So,
if you can rub your stomach and pat your head at the same time, you probably do all right.
just another way to free motion quilt. This machine is still stitch regulated, and the big advantage to going up into a frame system is you don't have to baste your quilt ahead of time. So on this kind of frame, we load the backing fabric first, and then plop the batting down on top, and then add our quilt top in. This was already partially quilted, so we've actually done it a little bit differently than we would do if we were starting fresh.
But it's nice to show that you can do it that way.
Yeah, if you had to take it off and come back another day,
Yeah.
always an option. So,
Okay, so this is going to sound really familiar if people were here yesterday. First thing we're going to do is bring up our bobbin thread. So, unlike the sit down, this one's got handles, gives you something to hold on to, but our controls are on the handle. So the top of that button takes a full stitch, so needle down, needle up, and there's our 2 threads right there. So now I've got the bobbin thread up, I've got it tacked, and I can start stitching. Now this design on our panel is one of the easiest. I think a lot of people find this even easier than good old meander, and it's just a loop the loop. So we'll turn the machine on and stitch our loops.
and you would move through this panel the same way as sitting down. You would just be moving the fabric instead of the machine.
I did a heart meander panto on a customer's quilt the other day, and I realized it was just a loop-the-loop, except every once in a while it was a heart instead of a loop.
So for those of you that like to make big quilts, they get pretty heavy when you start trying to move them around. And quilting those big quilts on a full frame definitely is easier than trying to push king size quilt even through a mid-arm, because you're fighting with the weight of that quilt. This looks too much fun. And Barb's not aiming for perfection. She's aiming for pretty close.
Because as we saw the other day looking at the back of the quilt, if you can keep a nice even speed, your stitches are regulated. And this will give you a much smoother line than I can show everybody. Whoops, wrong way. Okay, now let's take this, and if I try to be too particular.
If you're going really slow and pokey, you might have less smooth curves than you want.
So now if I pick up, I'm going to get a nice I'm not stitching the design the way it's supposed to be. But hopefully you can see the difference in the quality of the line. There we go.
So looking at the beginning part here, when Barb was going really, really slow and trying to be right on that line, the line isn't super smooth. It goes wibbly wobbly down through there. When she picked up speed, she actually got smoother. And those are really, really smooth curves.
So that's how much fun it can be.
Yeah, can I do the next bit?
Yes, you could. I know. I know.
I
Lea
wanna play
wants
work too.
one. Lea wants one.
I'd
Do you
have
wanna-
to move my husband and my kids out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm going to do this bit. And then I'm going to look at it for a minute and try and wrap my head around it. Mostly this is going to be an experiment because I know where to go based on the first few arrows.
Mm-hmm.
And I know how to do
then
it
it's
like
going to
that.
be ad lib.
Ooh, it's art.
It's art.
I like art.
Yeah. That's why it's called free motion. Now Leah's doing, what is Lea? Oh, she likes it in BSR 1.
I like BSR 1, purely personal preference. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to go find that start point. Barb, what do you recommend in new owners classes, whether people are quilting with two hands on the handles or one?
I like to encourage people to quilt with one hand, and it was a great line that I heard, I think it was a fellow out of Kelowna, who said, you don't write with two hands. And so even when we're learning to stitch panto from the backs of the machine, I know there's two handles, but I try to encourage people to use whatever hand is their writing hand. It just feels more natural than that death grip on the handles.
Well, and you tend to relax more.
Yeah.
Like I relax more if I've just got one handle on the go.
Yeah. I like to, as well, keep one hand on the quilt top. It helps me feel maybe I'm going too fast, maybe there's a glitch in the fabric.
And if you were setting this up for yourself at home, I would actually have my frame a little higher than this is right now. It's quite a nice height for most of our renters. I'm 5'10", and by the time I get the machine closer into my body here, I'm bending my neck quite a bit to see what I'm doing. I'm okay at the kind of at the back side of this.
But that brings up actually an important point that I run into with the renters a fair bit, and they try to quilt right up close to the bar here, right up in this space. And when that happens, this fabric is pulled taut, and sometimes if there's a lot of fabric around that bar, it's raised up a little bit. So by the time you get close to the bar, those stitch regulator sensors, the fabric is riding up a little too high for them to sense it well, and you're going to lose your stitch regulation and get some elongated stitches if you try squishing it right up tight there. So much of quilting any design is finding the path through the maze.
And your path and my path might not be the same. Oh, that's how that swirl works.
Is there a light bulb over? No, there's no light bulb over top of your head. We're going to move down to this silly little design here that the book anyway calls peas in the pod. You can call it whatever you like. But the nice thing about this panel is you can actually just quilt whatever you want in whichever section you want. So what are you going to do?
I'm actually going to come through here, and this is a really comfortable thing for me to do.
Okay.
I might not do it that size. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, so the 24-inch machine I find gives us plenty of quilting space. I was working today, as I said, on a king-size quilt, so 106 inches square. Length is no problem on a long arm. You can go 306 inches long if you want. It's the width that we have to pay attention to. So 106 inches just barely fit comfortably on this frame because this is an 11-foot frame. So if you are buying a long arm, ask yourself, what size quilts do I make most often, and would I ever make something big enough to need the 12-foot frame? Because there's not usually a big price difference between the two. It's more having space for it.
But the other thing to consider is throat size. If you're an itsy-bitsy little lady or gentleman, a big 26-inch machine, you're going to have a hard time loading your quilt across the depth because you have to be able to reach all the way across. So going back over the same place mushes it down, and you get really different texture than just going over it once.
Mm-hmm.
That did not go like I thought it would.
That's okay.
Because it's kind of like a clamshell, but I do them differently.
Yeah.
What do you know?
Okay, so how much more fun can we have?
We can have more fun. We have more
We can
time.
have more fun. Yay. Okay.
Oh, yes, we can use a twin needle on this long arm. I don't have any of that over here at the moment.
So, woohoo.
And there's more than one way to quilt feathers.
Oh, yes.
Because some people make spines and then go back in and make feathers. Some people make feathers and then make spines.
I like really free-form, floaty feathers. I find feathers are just a bit more interesting if you've got a little doodaddy in the middle. But then I like my quilting fairly dense.
Well, you can play with more thread with dense quilting.
Yes.
So if you're practicing with other fabric, picking a motif like the big butterfly or a big floral in your fabric is a really good place to start for trying to trace designs once you move on from a practice panel. There's lots of big floral panels that just are interesting to quilt, and they'll have some of these smooth lines, and each fabric's going to be a little bit different. But even trying to trace something like a motif in your fabric will give you really good experience on moving your machine or your fabric, whichever way you're quilting. And for those of you that do a little bit of both, yeah, there's some things I'm much more comfortable quilting sitting down, moving the fabric, and some things I'm more comfortable quilting standing up.
So now I can already hear the questions going, but I have my quilts already made and I don't know what to quilt on it, and I'm not any good at following the lines on the fabric, and I don't really want to do that anyway, so how do I get a design onto my quilt? And there's lots of ways. Sometimes you can just imagine it, but not very many people can do that. First off, you can chalk designs onto your quilt. You can do dot-to-dot ruler work. But a lot of beginners like to start with something called a pantograph. A panto what? No, it has nothing to do with clothing.
Pantographs are fun, and they're a really good way to get fancy designs without
much effort.
Having to be a super fancy experienced quilter.
So we're going to roll the quilt back so we have a nice little strip right at the top. This nice green.
Can I do the panto?
You can do the panto.
Cool. I haven't done a panto in a while.
So, a pantograph is a piece of paper. Okay, that's pretty good. It's a piece of paper that sits on the back table of the machine. And what I'm just doing is aligning the design kind of in that green area. Kind of is close enough for this. And you can see there's a laser right there.
Little laser pointer.
Little laser pointer.
This is tracing.
It's just like tracing from the front side, except this is used most often for edge to edge, we call it, for across the quilt, filling large areas. Yep. Although you can use pantos for doing block by block, all kinds.
There's all sorts of things.
It's just a way of getting a design on your quilt top. Panto's a good way to get your exercise as well, because the first thing you have to do is put your laser on where you want to start, and then you have to run around to the front of the machine, and you have to bring up your bobbin thread, tack, stop, trim. There we go. Always trim the threads so they don't come down and catch in the wheels, and then you get to run all the way to the back of the machine and stitch that row. So the first touch of the button is all it's going to do is turn on that back screen, and the second touch of the button is what will do the action. I don't know how easily we can see that laser. So you can see that nice leaf design there. Now Leah's standing, she's using both hands on the handles. What I have started doing when I'm stitching panto is actually taking a step to the left and just using the one handle. So I'm coming around to the front here, Leah, so we can see how that stitches. And you see the leaves being formed on that green, and you are stop there, right off the edge there. Perfect. So there's Leah's quilting. That's a nice row of leaves along there. I'm glad we used the contrasting thread.
Me too.
So it takes most renters 2 or 3 rows to get their quilting to look nice and smooth like that. Sometimes less.
It might depend on the panto.
It depends on the panto that they're using, but it's a way of getting that design to flow across your quilt without thinking about it.
Yeah, and there's places where, like, because this is contrasting thread right now, it's pretty obvious that I'm not bang on the same in the middle of every leaf. If this was kind of a green thread on that green,
You wouldn't notice it.
Or like a busier fabric, you wouldn't notice those inconsistencies.
Yeah. There's really, what I find, there's three main reasons why people want to start working on the long arm and do their own quilting. One is you can save a little bit of money over having somebody else do it for you. Maybe not the first quilt or two, but down the road as you get more practiced. But the second reason is because they want to be able to say they did it all themselves. Whether the finished product is bang on perfect or still looks like it was a school project,
Yeah.
it's okay with them.
Yeah.
Okay? And the third reason is because they're thread junkies like us and we just like driving the big machines. There are some people, and I count myself among them, that you turn this machine on and it's relaxing. It's a way of unwinding at the end of the day.
Things you can do beyond just following lines that are already on the fabric.
You can use that panto, that design, as a jumping off place. As you can see, when you start quilting densely around shapes, now let's just there's our leaf that we made with our panto. Some people like micro stuff. I tend to like micro. For micro stippling, I still find manual gives me a much smoother. So when you start doing micro stitches around a shape, it makes that shape just pop right out. And this is where you get the detail work on those wonderful whole cloth quilts.
So that micro in there.
You see how that's laid down compared to this here?
And that leaf is starting to pop out.
And the leaf, shall we pop the leaf some more?
Yeah, pop the leaf some more.
So that's how micro quilting. The light's not really super great for this, but that's okay. Now you can see how that leaf is just standing right out there. I might not have used turquoise thread if I was doing this for real, but
No, but it shows up pretty well.
yeah, it does. It does. So this is the fun thing about these panels is you'll get this idea and you go, I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
And so try it and find out. You don't have to stick with just what's printed on the panel. You can go to town. Like now standing back, I'm kind of going, okay, that blue's not bad. Maybe if we filled all around there with blue something, would those green leaves ever show up?
Yeah. My other thought, just now, is after you've quilted it the first time, flip it over and quilt it from the other side.
Oh, yeah. Stick
Because
over your lines.
either stitch over your lines where you're not having the distraction of the colors in the fabric, but you can go in and decide, do I want to fill in that pebble all the way?
Yeah.
Do I want to add some more texture or detailing in behind some of that other quilting?
It's all, remember, it's practice, and it helps you to figure out what you like and what you don't like. Do you like doing this? Do you like micro work, or do you want large open spaces? And as long as you start building a repertoire in your own head of things that you do and you do well, then when it comes to actually quilting a real quilt, you can go, this is going to be a gift for a really important person. I'm going to choose a simple design that I know I can do well. This isn't a good place to experiment. But this other quilt is maybe going to be a picnic blanket or something for yourself, and you just kind of want to see if you can do it.
Yeah.
So do it. Nobody told me that I shouldn't shave the kitty, so I did.
So don't be afraid to experiment, travel. It'll look really different if you do it in white thread.
We're sewing layers of fabric together. It's not brain surgery. Millimeters don't count. If you decide you've run out of things, I don't have a quilt handy. Go to the thrift shop, buy yourself a vintage table runner, tablecloth, whatever, and quilt the heck out of it.
I'll do the Vanna White thing.
Because it's cheap. It costs you $2. Yeah.
Yep. Or
blank space. So this is what I show people in certification. You've got it turned on. 2 fingers.
so the machine is heavy because it needs to be, but it's not heavy to push.
Yeah.
It doesn't steer like a shopping cart.
No, much better than a shopping cart. So that's how hard it is to move them. And the other thing that I want to encourage people, especially for pantos, if you have hip, knee, leg issues and you cannot stand to do this, you can do it sitting down.
Rolly stools are awesome.
Rolly stools are wonderful. I have a couple of renters who stitch their pantos on our rolling chairs because all you're doing is tracing the pattern with the laser.
I don't know if there's anything else we need to show you guys today. Have fun with your panels. Thank you for joining us for Free Motion Quilting Week. Thank you for all the kind words everybody's saying when they come in about our videos. There's been a lot of really lovely words again this week, and lots of people I don't recognize from being on here live. So everybody who's watching not live or catching us on YouTube or all the other ways you're finding our videos, thank you so much. It's incredibly fun to know that there's people out there. I never figured I would be on YouTube. This is a giant shock. This is not part of my career plan. I was gonna hide in the back and tech things so I didn't have to do my hair. Yeah, so thank you so much, guys. Be safe, be kind, be calm, and we will see you guys next week. Bye.